Hey everyone, Chris Fritton from the Itinerant Printer Project here. Just wanted to make a little video so that you can get the most out of your fluorescent inks. So let's get started. All fluorescent inks are oil-based inks. That means it's natural for them to skin over on the top. The best way to approach this is to grab your can, make a small incision along the edge, peel that flat back, and then there's good ink underneath. If you're going to be using a lot of ink, you can remove that skin entirely. And if it really bothers you, you can buy a product like No Skin or Anti-Skin, spray it on there, and that'll keep the ink pliable. You can also use that kind of spray to keep the ink open on the press for longer, but I don't recommend leaving it overnight. If the oil-based ink dries on the press, it's almost impossible to get off. If you're mixing fluorescent inks, because they're all oil-based, you should mix them with other oil-based inks. I don't recommend mixing them with rubber-based or acrylic inks. Also, for overprinting, if you're going to overprint, I recommend using oil-based inks. You can overprint with acrylics and rubber-based inks, but they do run the risk of one of them never drying, so your print could remain tacky forever. Now, if we're talking about mixing inks down, imagine that the fluorescent ink is too bright out of the can and you want to bring it down just a little bit. You can mix it with oil-based opaque white, and you're going to get a really bright pastel. If you're doing some overprinting and you're looking for translucence, you have to mix 1-to-1 with transparent white. And that's going to give you the translucence that you're looking for. Here's a great example of Corona Magenta straight out of the can, mixed 1-to-1 with opaque white, so you get that really bright pastel. And then over here mixed 1-to-1 with transparent white, and you can see that you get a lot more translucence. Now, if you're looking to mix some of those colors down, I do have a PDF that I'm going to be putting up with DayGlo color charts, mixing them down with opaque white and other process colors. And I'll be able to put up more images of color charts like these, mixing down DayGlo fluorescence with process colors as well. All fluorescent inks are incredibly pigment heavy, so when they come out of the can, they may seem chalky to you, or they may seem kind of gritty. That's because there's so much more material in the inks. There's nothing wrong with them. That's part of how they work. Blue and green are going to be the most pigment heavy. They're going to appear incredibly dark out of the can, like this. If you're looking to get a bright blue, I recommend going 1-to-1 with transparent white and then 1-to-1 with opaque white, and you'll be able to get a kind of bright robin egg blue. The same for the green. If you're looking to have the color of the page bleed through some, go 1-to-1 with fluorescent blue or green, and then 1-to-1 with transparent white. That transparent white will allow the page to bleed through, and it'll make the ink appear brighter. Last up, fading. People ask me this all the time. Are these inks going to fade? And the simple answer is yes, but it's way more interesting to talk about why. All inks fade over time, especially when they're exposed to direct sunlight, but fluorescent inks can appear to fade even faster. That's because fading is actually built into their molecular chemistry. As radiation in the form of invisible or UV light passes into the molecules of ink, it bounces off them, and that radiation is then reflected back to your eyes in the form of visible light. It also energizes those molecules, and here's where the magic of fluorescence comes in. When the molecules are energized, the electrons in the atoms actually get boosted up a few levels. As those electrons settle back down, the excess energy is emitted in the form of visible light, and that's why the colors appear brighter than is humanly possible for a brief moment. They're emitting more energy than they've absorbed. But here's the kicker, and the price you pay for that magic. When the electrons settle back down into their orbit, it's a new, lower orbit, one that actually does the job of reflecting and fluorescing light much worse. So now they appear dimmer or faded. They actually have a different molecular and chemical property after coming into contact with light. It's sad but true. It's built into the molecular chemistry of bright colors to fade. This is changing, and DayGlo has actually produced a couple of colors like strong Saturn Yellow and strong Corona Magenta that don't fade. People also ask how DayGlo fluorescent inks are different from other fluorescent inks that you can find, and the easiest answer is they're not on the Pantone scale. So Pantone 801 to 807 are fluorescent inks, but if you look at the DayGlo inks, Signal Green, Saturn Yellow, Aurora Pink, and others, they are not available on the Pantone scale, and they cannot be mixed. They're proprietary pigments that DayGlo owns the rights to, so you can actually get colors that you can't get anywhere else. That's it for the DayGlo Fluorescent Ink Primer. I want to thank you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, theitinerantprinter@gmail.com, and happy printing.